Hey, good evening, World Coin Talk community. Tonight we have an AMA of useless crypto here to speak about the project. It's False Flag. You launched last year, 10th of June. And you've got a 5.2 million market cap. Maybe we could go over the first 6 months of the project, what's been happening there, and the utilities you build in the crypto app and everything. Go into some of that. That'd be great.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I think it might be good to actually start a little bit with our origin story. It goes a little bit earlier than June. So June 10th was actually our relaunch. It had actually started about a month and a half previously, and it was I first popped in to Useless as an investor. I heard about it on Crypto Moonshots on Reddit, and I decided to pop in and give it a chance as soon as it launched. And shortly after that, I'd reached out to the founder, and he wasn't all that interested in taking Useless to the next level. He started it as a meme token and as a joke, and wasn't interested in carrying it forward. And so I talked him into handing the token over to the community. And that's really how everything started. It started as a joke. And then we decided to take it a little bit more seriously. And shortly after the token was handed over to the community, for that first while, it really was about being a meme and being useless and not having any utility. And the idea was that the tokens themselves didn't have a lot of utility, but that quickly changed. We found a flaw in the contract with the liquidity, and that's when we decided to do a relaunch. After the relaunch, that severed the ties with the OG dev and firmly put the token into the hands of the community. And from there, the vision was more about creating an innovative space in DeFi with creating accessibility. And that led me to re-steer a startup that I had that I was working on in the States, to take all the talent and resources on that team and to help build an app. And the app is called the Useless Crypto app. And the idea behind it was to be more like the Robin Hood of crypto, bringing accessibility into the space. So that's what we had worked on for a bit. And so we're in a pretty good spot now. Recently, in fact, just 2 days ago, we announced that our first full-time hire of Amir, who is our mobile application architect. So what the Useless Crypto app is right now, it is a charting app that is similar to like KuCoin or Bogged or Dex Tools or whatnot. Just on the mobile app side, there's a niche that we saw that we needed to fill, which was pulling blockchain data from a mobile app for charting information. That quickly grew into listings and charting. So you'd be able to go in and see what was out there, and then drill down in and see all the charting and whatnot. We quickly realized that we could really do some really interesting things if we were to have a wallet, not just because we're like, hey, we're new doing crypto, we need to have a wallet. The idea of having a wallet in our app would unlock all the utility of the app, which would be Web3 interactions in app. So what we're building right now, we are, I'd say, about 3/4 of the way through the wallet aspect. This is all from scratch. This isn't a fork or anything. The wallet itself would unlock those Web3 interactions, so you can buy, sell, and transfer crypto without having to go to other dApps or to other browsers. All within the app, you'd be able to interact within this ecosystem. So that's essentially where we are, is building this flagship project. And we are currently in beta right now with more than 4,000 users. It is built in React Native, so it compiles down to iOS and Android. And all we're doing is we're waiting on the beta to be in a decent spot. with the wallet integrated and fiat on-ramping, and then we're going to be launching on the app stores, both Apple and iOS app stores. At that point, we anticipate some pretty rapid growth in the number of users, because right now it's pretty difficult to actually download the app if you aren't aware of what Useless is and what its mission is. You have to kind of go seek us out and click on the download links or have Test Flight installed for Apple and that sort of thing. And so, but right now we have a pretty strong community. Yes, our name is Useless, and we originally started as Useless as a meme token, and now we are dripping in about 7 layers of irony because we are really trying to add a ton of utility and usefulness to the space. That's basically the introduction to our project.
So maybe if we can go into the tokenomics of the buys and sells, and that feeds into very interesting. You've got the fairness contract, regulating smart contracts, and the bypass contracts. We go into some of that included in the tokenomics.
Sure. So originally the token has its base tokenomics are 8%. 4% is towards reflection to all token holders. That includes the burn wallet. And 4% is to auto liquidity. Now, that's the base tokenomics. What we came up with was something called side tokenomics. It is essentially we would set up another swapper, another contract that is whitelisted in the contract, and you can interact with it via the D app. And what this does is it allows us to impose the same 8% taxation when you purchase through the swapper or sell through the swapper or whatnot. However, we can put those taxes to different use. So, for example, when you buy, you could have a different set of taxation rules. You can still charge 8%, but you could have all of that used for something else. Or when you sell, you can use that whole 8% for something else. So we impose different rules for the swapper than we do for our actual regular tokenomics, which is an interesting concept. We were able to do that to do something called fueling the furnace. So the furnace is something that is an innovation in Useless that allows for us to manage our liquidity properly. If you're familiar with a lot of tokens that are using auto liquidity taxes, oftentimes that is used by a function called swap and liquefy that sells those tokens on the open market in order to top off the liquidity. What we do with the furnace is a bit different. So it collects tokens from taxation. It also will collect B&B and things like that from external revenue, and then it will pair its liquidity that way. So completely different in terms of how the tokenomics works. The swapper itself also acts like a bypass. So, for example, if you wanted to transfer to someone else, you can do that using the D app, and you could have a lower tax. The tax for the swapper to transfer is only 4%. So if you have a cold storage or you want to gift to a friend, that sort of thing, you can pay half taxes to transfer. Whereas the contract doesn't actually support breaking out a difference between buy, sell, and transfer. The swapper does and allows for you to have a lot of flexibility. And what's neat about that is we could jump out and swap out the swapper anytime if we decide to move the token forward and impose a different set of rules or use the taxes for different things. We can do that. And one need that we found is that we needed to have something that would go towards marketing. And so we were able to upgrade our swapper to have part of that tax go towards a marketing wallet. And that has been very, very beneficial because we had been starved for a very, very long time from marketing funds, just how we had set everything up because we refused to touch the LP for anything marketing related. So yeah, there's definitely a lot to this. for all the smart contracts that we kind of have in our orbit, but it does demonstrate that we are pretty adept at digging in from the Solidity standpoint and building out smart contracts and building out a different type of ecosystem that we feel is actually quite innovative in the space. We were able to basically upgrade and continue to breathe life without having to do a relaunch via the swapper system.
You've got the swapper contract. How does that work for investors to simplify, maybe for newer crypto investors, you have to swap different tokens on the BSC?
You said the swapper contract?
Yeah.
How does that help newer investors?
You've simplified it for new investors, have you? Yes, to swap tokens on the BSC.
Right. Okay. So for other tokens, we don't have our swapper. The swapper is just specific to the useless app, just to the useless token. The app is where the idea is to have a swapper for every single token out there that is interactable within the app. And that will make things a lot easier. So we already have the smart contract done. It's called the Eclipse Swapper. And so once the wallet is wired up in the app, then you will be able to, we will be able to do buys and sells on any token on the Binance chain with that Eclipse Swapper. And the idea is to monetize this process. So for a convenience fee. Sorry, there was some external noise. So, for example, if I wanted to look up some random token that just recently launched, and I wanted to purchase this within the useless app, then I can go do a search in the app. I can pull up the chart of that project, and there will be a buy button. And when you hit that buy button, it's interacting with the Eclipse Swapper, which is the contract that we had set up. And that is like a wrapper for PancakeSwap or other DEXs. And from that, we take a 0.35% fee off that purchase. And then it will route through PancakeSwap, purchase the asset, and give it back to your wallet. And so the convenience of using the useless app is that you can search and find projects and purchase it all within the same app via your wallet in the app. And then the convenience of doing that, you pay 0.35%, and that goes to our furnace for the token. And then the token will benefit from that because as BNB gets put into the furnace based on the health of liquidity, that will lead to either one of three things. It's either going to be liquidity injection if liquidity is too low, or it's going to be buyback, and once that buyback happens, then it will be those tokens will be burned and reflected back to the community. So the swapper for the token itself is very specific to the useless ecosystem, but we do have a swapper contract that is designed for every Binance token that is listed on PancakeSwap, or has it not listed, but has a liquidity pool within PancakeSwap.
Really excellent feature to have inside the app, yeah. And you're going to offer like other DeFi tokens to have the option of paying for advertising and other premium benefits inside the app, yeah.
Yeah. So the idea behind it is that, all right, imagine that you have this app where you can search and find anything. Well, you want to have some listings of people who are deciding like, I want to be on the useless app. How do I do that? So there's a process to where you can list your token on the app. Now, this isn't the end all be all. Right now, it is a flat fee, and you can go to eclipse.uselesscrypto.com. And from there, there's a D app to where you can actually list your project on the useless ecosystem. And how it works is when you go through and you list your token on the D app, you pay a fee, a listing fee, and that whole process of listing, when you go through and interact with the smart contract in a decentralized way from that D app, once you pay the listing fee and click, list, then it will create a smart contract called an Eclipse smart contract. That Eclipse smart contract is a special address that is sort of like a bucket, I guess is the best way to put it, to where you can share with your community and say, here is the Eclipse address. And if you are to send either useless tokens or BNB to this contract address, then that will increase the ranking of your token on the app. So just listing would just put things in random order, or we could sort them by market cap and things like that. But we wanted to have sort of like this king of the hill type competition for every listed token. And how it works is that the token that has the highest amount of useless in its contract, its Eclipse contract, will be at the top of the list. And that is baked into the app. So the app is actually going and checking on the blockchain and seeing all the listed tokens. And then for all the listed tokens, it's pulling all of its Eclipse contracts with all these. So each Eclipse contract is associated with each token. And then it ranks all of them based off of the useless in each of those Eclipse contracts. So that's why it's called Eclipse, is because these tokens are trying to eclipse one another in the whole process. The top 3 tokens are given a prominent spot, and you can even click in to one of the Eclipse rankings, and you can see how much useless is actually locked inside of that Eclipse contract. So think of it kind of like listings and paid rankings, because that's essentially what is happening. Is the utility of the token is that you are spending useless on getting it ranked higher within the app. And what happens is there is a decay. We actually haven't ran a decay yet outside of testing, but probably going to do that next week. So, but the decay is 10% of all the tokens and all the Eclipse contracts, and it will iteratively go through each Eclipse contract, and then it will remove those tokens and it will put them into the furnace, which is then used for reflection and burn or auto liquidity pairing.
So have you been reaching out to projects to be part of advertising getting premium benefits inside the app?
Yeah, it's definitely some work, just because there's a couple of missing features that we need to build into the app to make this process a little easier. So for example, right now it's a bit difficult for a community or for a random person to go through and bump it up. They have to have a bit of understanding or clear direction on where to send the useless and BNB. And that might be a lot for people. So in the app, we are building a functionality to where within the app, you can just click on promoting a particular token, and then the BNB is spent. And that BNB will go out and purchase useless and send it to the appropriate Eclipse contract address. But yes, we are absolutely looking for other tokens who are interested in being listed. And so just get in touch with me or my team, and we are obviously looking for people who are interested in being listed, and we are negotiating rates at this point.
And you've got a whale watcher feature inside the app. How does that work for investors?
Yeah, so once a token is listed, we will start tracking the holders list and keeping a record of that. So after a few days, we'll have enough information to really give you on what a whale has been doing for the past 24, 48 hours. So there's a snapshot that happens on the holders and their amounts, and then we graph all of that. And we also just do a report on all of that. So if you were to go in and search for a particular token that is that is listed with us, and you click on the whale watching tab, it will show you like some of the top 50 whales in the project. It will also show you their movements over the past 24 hours. You can drill into a particular whale and see a chart of their holdings that will go back as far as 30 days. So if we've been tracking a project for 30 days, then or more, it will show the chart of their holdings over time. And you can see whether or not this is someone that's been selling down consistently, whether this is someone that hasn't moved at all, or someone who just dumped half their bag. Even if it was more than 24 hours ago, you can get a sense. And you can even drag and scrub along with your finger on the chart and get an exact value along that. So that gives a lot of visibility into projects as to what the whales are actually doing. What we plan on doing is down the road, this is after we launch, there's an address book functionality that we are adding to the app. This will allow you to privately tag, much like you can privately tag on BSE Scan. So you can privately tag addresses, and that will show throughout the entire ecosystem. So the live transaction feed, it will link up with the private tags that you've put in there. So you could see, oh, that's Billy. Billy just bought a bit, right? As you're looking at the live transaction feed. Or you can go to the whale watching tab, and it will resolve that address into addresses that are in your private address book and things like that. And if you want to transfer and send tokens, obviously you could refer to your address book for that as well.
I believe the number one whale at the useless token has locked more than half of their tokens. Is that inside the useless staking feature you've got for investors? And how does the useless staking feature work?
So the whale locking their tokens was something that they did, it was like 6 months ago. That was on their own volition, and that was through DXLock. So I believe at the time it was like 40 trillion. And that was locked quarterly. So that person has already pulled out 10 trillion of that 40 trillion. And there's still remaining 30 trillion left in that. That's clarification on that whale locking their tokens. So there are still 30 trillion tokens that are locked out of that original 40 trillion. But I believed once they unlocked them, those tokens hadn't been sold on the market. So, and then what was the second part of that question?
Useless staking feature works. Is that locked, unlocked? How do investors use the staking features? Okay.
Well, there's a couple of things that are, staking is an interesting word because for a lot of different people, it means different things. There is a product that is created by the Xsurge community, the Xsurge team, that is, I would say, not directly affiliated with Useless. We're partnered for sure. Xsurge and Useless community have a lot of intersections where we help each other out. So what Surge Useless is a product by the Xsurge team, and Surge Useless is a very interesting type of token that is not like your traditional token. How it works is instead of a liquidity pool through PancakeSwap, the token is its own liquidity pool, and it's something that Mark and I originally ideated way back when. Obviously, Mark gets all the credit because he built it, but I was there while it was being built. Very fascinating project, and it's originally started as Surge BNB, and now there's other Surge projects like Surge ETH and Surge ADA, and then finally, I think their flagship product right now is XUSD, which is the first stable coin that slowly appreciates in value. So right now, when you say the word staking, the best analog or what we've used in the past is that you would convert your Useless into something called Surge Useless, and you would stake your Useless into that pool. So in the D app, there is the ability, there's a tab in there called Surge, and that allows you to take your useless and to convert it into Surge useless. And what happens as people buy or sell or transfer Surge useless, the price compared to the underlying asset goes up. So what that basically means in layman's terms is that if you own, say, 1,000 Surge useless, that represents a certain amount of underlying useless tokens. And if it was a 1-to-1 ratio, then you'd be able to, you'd be able to convert, say, 1,000 Surge useless into 1,000 useless. It's not a 1-to-1 ratio, but just for simplicity's sake. And over time, the amount of useless you could get from 1,000 Surge useless would increase over time due to volume and price action and taxation and things like that. So when you first buy into Surge useless, you pay an 8% tax. If you were to buy it off the market, and it goes out and purchases useless and then leaves it as part of the underlying asset inside that token. And over time, the value of what you can redeem for the underlying asset, which is useless, would go up. So that's what Surge useless is. It's just an interesting way to take, if you're a long-term holder, to take your assets and stake them into its liquidity pool and then sell it later for more useless tokens, hopefully, than you'd put in. So you'd have to wait a little bit for an ROI for that to happen. But that's how that works. So there is on the D app a Surge tab, and you can convert your useless into Surge useless for a lower fee than the buy-in. It's a 6% fee instead of an 8% fee. If you've already purchased useless, you can quote unquote stake it into the Surge useless pool. And then over time, you'll eventually get a reward, but it's not a typical like LP farming type setup. Now, if you want to actually do LP farming, you can do that with the Surge Useless XUSD pool, and all that's available on xsurge.net in their app.
An audit done by Solidity Finance, the 64 members adopt, which is great. And I see nearly 30% of the tokens have been burned through the earnest contract. How it was done. Or?
Oh, what was that last part, that question?
The tokens have been burned. Is that through the earnest contract? Yeah.
Well, yes and no. So a decent amount. Well, there's three sources of burn right now. When the token was relaunched, there was a manual burn of 250 trillion. So about 25% of the burn comes from that initial burn set up through the relaunch. Then before that, the furnace wasn't completely set up. So it took a bit for the furnace to be built and that ecosystem to come into fruition. So most of the burn around that time happened due to the regular token taxation, the regular tokenomics. So again, remember 8% of the tax, half of that, 4%, goes towards reflections, which includes the burn wallet. So just regular buys and sells would reflect back to all holders, including the burn wallet, and the burn wallet would naturally grow. We had also done some manual burns initially as we were setting up the furnace, because we wanted to have we wanted to demonstrate that we knew the furnace was coming, and we knew that it would add additional burning and things like that. So we had also done a string of manual burns along the process. So, and then finally, once we had the furnace set up, then things got a burning. So the answer, I think, is no. The majority of that is not from the furnace. However, the furnace has been kicking up its share as to the amount of tokens being burned. And we like the fact that there's different sources for burning. Just based off volume alone and reflection, a burn happens through there. But now a burn happens through the furnace as tokens get locked in the furnace contract and people trigger the furnace. Then more and more tokens are getting burned and reflected back to everybody, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, you're on the Bitmart Central Exchange. I think the tax works different there, or is it zero? And when you move it to another external wallet, you could use that bypass contract where you'd pay 4% tax to that wallet, could you?
Yeah. So how this works, Bitmart is a bit interesting, and I think it's a little complicated from the hack. That aside, so let's put the hack aside for a minute of Bitmart, and let's just talk about how all of that works. So yes, we are listed on Bitmart, and before the hack, this is how things would work, is that you initially could start transferring tokens in at 4% into your deposit address. However, that's been becoming more and more problematic. Bitmart has a way of figuring out whether or not tokens are transferred in via contract, or they're transferred in from just a regular wallet transfer. And so Bitmart has been a little bit more and more picky about transferring in at 4% because using the swapper contract to transfer it in, more and more we're getting people concerned about that they have to actually contact Bitmart in order for them to register the funds into their wallet. And that's just Bitmart being very frustrating because it used to work just fine. And if you look at the blockchain, the tokens would end up in the Bitmart deposit address. But if it comes from the swapper, occasionally they don't recognize it, or there's difficulty, or there's a time delay in recognizing it. So that's just an interesting tidbit, is that the easiest way to get things into your Bitmart deposit address is to just send it directly and pay the full tax. The swapper contract seems to be having, because it is a contract and Bitmart is very finicky about things like arbitrage bots and things like that. I think they're catching that, thinking that it's an arbitrage bot when it's actually not. So right now, as it stands, it's 8% to move into your deposit address for Bitmart because the swapper is a bit unreliable due to Bitmart being catching false positives for bots. Once it's in the Bitmart ecosystem, then it is a tax-free trade. So what I like to think of from a high level is that exchanges are a black box. And in an ideal situation, what you would like to see is taxation coming into the exchange and taxation leaving the exchange, so that taxation is all on chain. What is actually happening with a lot of projects that have taxation inside the exchange is that these are off-chain taxation events. And that's a really scary thing if you're into decentralization, I'm going to be honest with you, because what happens is you don't know where this money goes if it's taxed off-chain. You don't know to whom or to how. It's also a little bit weird from a macroeconomic standpoint if you start taxing off-chain just because things are trading within an exchange. Does that necessarily mean it has to be taxed? And that's the challenge that I would pose. So what we decided to do here at Useless is that all exchanges are tax-free. And that's for a couple of reasons. One is to increase the ability to onboard. It reduces costs. We can onboard a lot quicker when there's no taxation. It also increases volume on the exchange, which attracts interest. And then ideally what we want is taxation in to the exchange and then taxation leaving the exchange. The way that Bitmart currently has it set up too is that it's you have to whitelist their hot wallet. Otherwise, it's a double taxation event in order to get your tokens in. So because of that, because the hot wallet is whitelisted, when tokens leave the exchange, they leave the exchange by virtue of the hot wallet, which is it would be a tax-free event for those tokens to leave to get back on chain. So as it stands, it's 8% to deposit into Bitmart, and it is 0% to leave Bitmart. And so it's unfortunate that the hot wallet taxation is just two-way, and that's just how it is. But it's, in my mind, still better to have 0% buy, essentially, if you treat the if you treat the exchange as like a black box, you think of it as a way for people to get on-ramped and onboarded into the whole ecosystem. So if people have a Bitmart account, they can purchase useless from there without necessarily having to get into PancakeSwap. And then they can move their tokens on chain. So that's how that whole process works right now. After the hack, little interesting tidbit in there, we have a blacklist function, and we exclusively use that blacklist function for situations just like this. So we heard that Bitmart had been hacked. The private keys for the hot wallets for both the Ethereum and the Binance side were compromised, and it started systematically moving tokens out of the hot wallet into another wallet that was liquidating funds. We were able to blacklist the Bitmart hot wallet, which locked the tokens inside of that wallet, unable to transfer, buy, or sell. What that means, we were able to catch that in time. That was quite a story, by the way, because we had to do that using a multi-sig interaction, because that's how our from security standpoint, we have to get 4 out of 6 of our directors to sign off on a multi-sig transaction to interact with the contract in any meaningful way. And so we were able to blacklist in time, but it was by the skin of our teeth. So right now, those tokens are blacklisted in the old compromised Bitmart hot wallet. And we're currently working with Bitmart on a solution to get those tokens either somehow reimbursed or figure out a way for us to actually move those tokens. And that process is currently ongoing.
And going back to the app, is there any cost to the investors to use all the features inside there? Would you have to hold so many useless tokens, or how does that work?
That's a planned feature for right now. What we're really focused on building is the base functionality in the app. So having the whale watching, the live transactions, the charting, the listings, those sort of things are already implemented. The final pieces remaining in order for us to fully launch and get out of beta is the wallet, the multi-chain wallet that we're building, the Web3 interactions to buy and sell all the other Binance-based tokens out there, and finally fiat on-ramping, which is something we're very excited about that helps with the accessibility side of things. And I'm really sorry I forgot the original question. I was going down a different thread. So
yeah, what we'll do, is there a cost, or do you have to hold so many useless tokens?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks for the reminder. So so down the line, yes, we do anticipate having like holding $100 worth of useless or something to unlock premium features. That's something that I haven't fully committed to, but we're currently ideating. So it could come in a variety of ways. It could be in the app itself. Maybe the app has a subscription cost to it. That doesn't set well with me because that's more of a centralized approach. But it does simplify things in getting things into actual like bank accounts that we can use for more traditional marketing for the app. The other way, the decentralized approach would be holding a certain amount of useless, absolutely. So we haven't fully committed and fully decided on which approach we're going to take yet. But yes, there will be a premium tier of features that we're going to add for more serious investors after we launch our base functionality. That's the anticipation. Because once you build something, then you think of ways you can further monetize it. But the app will always be free, the base functionality of the app. There may eventually be a premium tier that gives you more advanced functionality that we're going to build later on. But everything I described, the charting, whale watching transactions, the Eclipse functionality, the listings, all that kind of stuff will, the wallet and the fiat on-ramping, all those things will be base functionality in the app. So as we come up with really interesting features, they'll help justify that development time and maintenance. by building more and more cool premium things to add bells and whistles to the app. But again, I think it's really critically important that all the base functionality remains free.
I could point out to investors as well, the LP is locked for 4 years, which is great. And you've got nearly 15,000 holders. Super cool. But going forward, what are you looking to do with the marketing for the Useless project and the app?
Yeah. Right now, and I mentioned this in previous streams and everything, but for those who are listening now, is we are kind of in stealth mode right now. We are collecting as much as we can for marketing. And once the app is in a very good, stable place with all the features that we want, and we're ready to launch on the app stores for iOS, for Apple and for Google, then at that point, we're going on a marketing blitz. So shortly leading up to the launch and post-launch, there's going to be a lot of messaging on that. And so we do have our corporate multi-signature wallet. We are currently at a decent amount saved up. So as we go over the next several weeks, we want to continue to save up our marketing funds for this marketing blitz. And the purpose and intent behind all of this is to draw attention to the app itself. It's actually really difficult traditionally to market a token. It's a lot easier traditionally to market an app. So a lot of the channels that we can't use, so for example, like Facebook or Google or whatnot, they don't allow for you to just go out and advertise a token. But you can go out and you can say, look at this amazing crypto app. This is wonderful. And they'll be like, yeah, that's fine. So marketing cryptocurrency itself, traditionally very difficult, a lot of obstacles. But when we're marketing the app, it's a lot easier. And so a lot of that money is saved up for more of that traditional route, which is going to be really, really exciting. We don't want to blow our wad too early on that, obviously, because as we're continuing to develop, it wouldn't make sense to market the app with it still in beta. And you still have to, if you were to go to the app store, you'd have to, you'd find some difficulty in searching for it and finding it. So right now, no traditional marketing on the app as it's still in beta, but once that's out, then out we go.
Yeah, we're coming up to the hour here now. We're running out of time a bit, but yeah, we always say anyone listening back to the recording, we can get you safely over to the Useless Crypto official Telegram. If you've got any questions to ask, you can head over there. Also, after an AMA, you're welcome to come back, keep us updated on the app as it goes through the stages. It's super interesting, exciting project. I think the Useless project, I was quite surprised, but reading over the research, so as investors come in and do that research as well, and yeah, it's a nice surprise because of the name, it's the the pun of it type thing. Yeah, it's been super chatting to you today, False Flag. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the future for the project, and yeah, I'll leave it there. I'll finish the recording and send a copy over for you to share with your community. We've got Spin the Wheel as well next, just before we go. So,
all right. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me on here.
Okay. Yeah. Take care, False Flag, and yeah, keep us updated on the progress of the Useless Crypto projects going forward.
Okay, thank you. And if you guys want to jump in, go to uselesscrypto.com. There's instructions on there on how to get into our Discord. And you're happy to pop in, and we'll be happy to answer more questions for you. All right, take care.
You use the Discord more than Telegram, yeah? Yeah.
Yep.
Do a spin the wheel here for a giveaway for everyone.
Yeah, I think Ledizzle's doing it. So just
you guys don't have to give me a moment. I'm just loading it up, so it'll be another about 90 seconds or so, guys.